Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick video today about the SharePoint storage quota metric. It's readily available to you in the browser, but it's not that easy to pull it programmatically. And it's also not easy to my knowledge, there's not a built-in warning mechanism until you run out of that storage. So let's jump into the browser and take a look at how we can solve this problem. So just quickly, what I'm talking about here is in this tenant, I've not really got any data in SharePoint. But it's really this metric up the top right where you've got this slider bar showing you how much storage you've got available and how much you've used. Now, I don't know why, but for one reason or another, if you want to create an Azure function or an automation account, you can't see this data in Microsoft Graph. You can access it in some other ways with the old SharePoint PowerShell module, but you can't authenticate against that module in an Azure function without bypassing some serious security by passing in your credentials and making exceptions and conditional access and this kind of thing. So the solution that I've found is to create a logic app. So let's just jump into the logic app. I want to step through with you quickly, pulling that information, and then hopefully we can do something useful with it. So here I've pre-deployed a logic app. So I just want to get started here. Let's create a recurrence trigger. And obviously this is not the important piece. You could set up any kind of trigger you want, but in my case, let's say we're going to send an email based on this information. So I'll quickly choose my time zone, which is really neither here nor there for this demo, but I'm based in New Zealand, so I'll choose that. Let's say I want it to run at 11 o'clock at night, and that's it. That should be good to go. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is to make a HTTPS call to SharePoint. Cool. Okay, so the place that I want to make an HTTPS call is to my admin site. So let's enter that value in there. And I don't know why, but for some reason my copy and paste seems to duplicate everything that I paste in the Logic App Designer. I don't know if it's just because Microsoft doesn't like me using Firefox, but it's really strange. Now, the endpoint that we want to hit on the SharePoint API is the storage quotas or API storage quotas endpoint. So it'll look a bit cleaner when I delete out the duplication. But basically we're hitting the SharePoint API storage quotas and then using this particular API version. And there's a few headers that I also want to pass, which is accept. Oh, create an extra thing there. Content type. And OData version. Cool, and then what we want to put in for accept is application/JSON, but I also want OData metadata none. Like that. And again, application JSON and OData equals verbose. And then finally, that's 4.0. And if you're wondering where I picked up those values from, it's actually from this, from the SharePoint admin site itself. When I loaded it, I pressed the wrong button there. What I did is I just did a refresh page and had a look at all the requests being made. I filtered it to the domain of the admin site. And sure enough, not too far down, there is the call that gets made to that endpoint we're talking about. And if you look at the request headers, and I won't bore you with this, but if you, sorry, that's the response headers. If you look at the request headers and start scrolling through some of this stuff that's passed, you will see, for example, the application JSON OData. And that's where I've sort of pulled this information from. There we go, OData version 0. And that's where I got that from. So let's jump back to here. And we should be good to go, I think. Save that. And let's give that a run. Fresh. There we go. Here's our new one. Cool. And that looks successful. And you can see that we have pulled really the key metric here. Well, we've got we've got a few things in the response. So we've got a JSON object, which contains an array. So the array called value, but it's only got one item in the array, and the item's an object. And in there we have the data that I really want to see, which is geo available storage in MB. So that's how much you've got left. So there's no calculations required. We can simply report on that. And that's probably all you need to watch, really. You've got the data now. If you know if you are fairly handy with logic apps, you're probably okay from here. But I'll quickly just show a couple more steps to perhaps make that data slightly more user-friendly to use. So let's quickly jump into it. So what I've done previously is I've used the parse JSON. Oh, chose the wrong thing. Nearly swore there. So what I've done, sorry about that. So what I've done in the past is I've used the parse JSON function. What I want to do is I want to pass the basically just the body of what got returned to us in that previous call. So let's chuck that in there. We need to generate a schema. So if we have copied previously, hopefully somewhere here I've got it copied. Here we go. Should have told you to copy it when I was looking at the body before, but this is what we saw in the previous when I was reviewing the run. Let's just copy the payload in, and it will generate a schema for us. Okay, that looks good. And the other thing that I would do is kind of interesting. It's not really a necessary step, I suppose, but I only want one value out of what got returned. So what I've done is I've initialized a variable. The variable that I've initialized is the geo available storage in GB. So I'm just making it a little bit more useful. And that's going to be an integer. And then the value here, we want to use a function to figure out the value. But a few things to this. If I just choose the value of the available storage in MB, because that object was inside of an array, it will create a for each loop, which causes us a bit of a problem. So what I'm going to do is choose the body. So it's going to give us everything. And then I'm going to use dot notation to get the value, which is an array. So I want the first object in the array. And then from there, I want the geo available storage in MB. Oh, it's not. Let me just type it. So I want the geo available storage in MB. And that pulls that one variable. But the other thing that I want to do is divide that by 1024 just so we can get that into GB. So let's go back to the start. So I'm going to use a function div. So I'll grab it from here. Okay. So I actually want that close bracket to be over here, and it's expecting an input and a divisor. So the divisor is going to be 1024. So that's what I think. I think that's right. So let's add that and save that, and then hopefully we'll get the available storage in gigabytes. So let's have a look at that run. There we go. Cool. Okay, so we can see the value there is 1043 available storage in gigabytes. So that's more or less about right. I think I had 1.2 terabytes. So I think that makes sense to me. From there, if you did want to send an email when you're getting low on storage, you could do something like this. So if I was to add in, say, a condition, and now because we've initialized this variable and isolated it out on its own, it's nice and easy to use. So we're going to use the available storage in GB. It's much easier to work with. So we want to give ourselves a warning when we're got 100 gigs or lower. So let's say is less than or equal to. So less than or equal to 100. Cool. And then you can set up like send an email or send an email from a shared mailbox and formulate that. I think that's enough for today. I'm not going to take you through sending the emails. There's plenty of blogs and videos about logic apps and sending emails and stuff like that. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully you learned something, or hopefully that's useful to you. And that's really it. If there is any real world scenarios, this was a question that I had from a client. If you have any real world Azure in the wild type scenarios that you want me to try and tackle, then let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Cheers.